Howdy. So I know there's still some students coming into the theater, but we've got 6 states, including Minnesota, Montana, New York, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and other schools in Texas that are joining us via long-distance education. I think there are more than 1,000 students out there viewing this program via long-distance education. So we're going to go ahead and start for them, and for you all who are just making your way into the theater, please try to do so quietly. I'm Warren Finch. I'm the director here at the George H.W. Bush Presidential Library and Museum, and it is my pleasure to welcome you. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're, in addition to the schools that are joining us online, we appreciate all of y'all, from the South, all of y'all, all of the schools that are here, and then also there's a lot of people here from the general public that are joining our program. Welcome, thanks for joining us. The Guide Dogs program relates significantly to the Americans with Disabilities Act, called the ADA. President George H.W. Bush, our president, signed that act on July 26, 1990. It has helped make it possible for 45 million disabled Americans to gain access to society. Today's presenter is Abigail Newman, president of Aggie Guide Dogs and Service Dogs, and with her is her golden retriever, Ace. I was in Disney World this time last year, and there was a student from Texas A&M with the dog that she was training with her parents visiting Disney World. So keep your eye open, they're out there. Ace is, the organization is part of a Texas A&M University organization that trains puppies to become service dogs. The group began in 1997, 23 years ago, and were one of the first student clubs in the nation to begin training puppies for service. Let's welcome Abigail and Ace. Thank you.
Well, good morning. So like Mr. Finch said, my name is Abigail Newman, and I'm the current president for Aggie Guide Dogs and Service Dogs. And this is my companion, Ace. He is a 9-month-old golden retriever who is generously donated to my organization from a breeder up in North Texas called Reading Retrievers. And today we're going to talk to you about service dogs, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and my organization itself. So, Aggie Guide Dogs and Service Dogs was formed in 1997. We have been around for 23 years, and we were the first student-run service dog training organization on a college campus in the nation. We have had 104 dogs enter our program, with 79 dogs successfully placed with partners and actively working to this day. Our mission statement is to educate about, fundraise for, and promote the training and use of service dogs and guide dogs to increase awareness on how these animals help people with disabilities. Let's define what a service dog is while we start, okay? So a service dog, defined by the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, is a dog who is specifically trained to perform a task for an individual with a disability. This basically means that Ace, who is in school to be a service dog right now, or Sully, President Bush's service dog, was trained to perform a series of tasks, or one specific task, to help the person with disability, or President Bush. And we'll talk about Sully a little bit more here in a second. But there are hundreds of different kinds of service dogs out and about in the world. We're just going to talk right now about those that my organization focuses with specifically. So to start, let's talk about autism assistant service dogs. AGS has been very fortunate that we have had 2 dogs in our program be placed to be autism assistant service dogs. These dogs are trained to alert to sensory information such as bright lights, loud noises, large crowds that individuals with autism may find overwhelming or overstimulating, and help the person recognize these stimulants and these other things in life so that they can feel more comfortable and help prevent them from having a breakdown or having an Ace. Thank you. Or make sure they don't have a hard time. The next kind is a PTSD service dog. So PTSD means post-traumatic stress disorder. These dogs are trained to help individuals who have PTSD or anxiety help them in a variety of different ways. Sometimes it's if you're feeling a little anxious when you have PTSD, you may scratch your arm a lot, and these dogs are trained to prevent you from scratching your arm. Heel. Thank you. So PTSD dogs may help you from preventing from scratching your arm if you're feeling anxious. They may also do a thing called deep pressure therapy, which means if you're starting to have a PTSD trigger, or you're starting to feel really overwhelmed with something, the dog will either stand on your feet, or if you're sitting, climb in your lap, and they will put all of their body weight on your body weight so that it is like a really heavy blanket, kind of, and it makes you feel a lot better. The next kind is a seizure alert dog. Now, these dogs, it's kind of self-explanatory, but a seizure alert dog is a dog that will alert their partner to an impending seizure, and in some cases, get medicine or go get help, so that when you're about to have a seizure, there's another person there that can help assist you, call 911 if needed, or administer any medication. Are you feeling better? Is it gonna go? That's the wrong direction. You were working a second ago. Thank you. Okay, so hearing dogs. These are dogs that are trained to help people who are hearing impaired or deaf, and they will help alert to things like smoke alarms, babies crying. No, sir. Down. Thank you. Ace is a little excited to be here today, if you can't tell. But if you're deaf or you're hearing impaired, then you don't know if a smoke alarm is going off because the house is on fire, or you don't know if a baby's crying, and the dog is trained to alert you to those things. Ags has only had one dog go on to do this, but we're really hopeful we'll have more do this in the future. Then there's diabetic alert dogs. These dogs are trained to help people with diabetes know if their blood sugar changes and they need to take medicine to help make sure that they don't have to go to the hospital for anything. And then the biggest dogs that AGS specifically works with is mobility assistance dogs. So these dogs help people that are in wheelchairs or they have a hard time moving around a little bit. They help them move around. They retrieve items for them. They'll push handicap buttons on doors so that they can go in their wheelchair. AGS has had 30 dogs be placed doing this. And then the last kind, which we don't really work with anymore, but we used to a lot, are guide dogs. So these dogs help people that are visually impaired or blind, and they help them maneuver around obstacles, such as going up and down stairs, walking across streets, or even just stepping on or off a curb. So, I know everybody is dying to watch Ace do some of these tasks. Ace, he knows a lot of different things. Most of them are mobility assistance commands that we'll demonstrate here in a second to give you kind of an idea of what these tasks look like. So, one of the first mobility assistance tasks, one of the things that Sully did for President George Bush was retrieve items. So I dropped my clicker. Let's pretend that I'm in a wheelchair, okay? And this is my car keys. And I drop my car keys on the ground, and if I'm in a wheelchair, I can't go pick it up. So I asked Ace to. Ace, get it. Ace, give. That was very good. Stay. And then another example of something Sully would have done for President Bush, and Ace is learning to do for his future partner, is how to push a button on an elevator so that you can go into it. Ace, stay. This works for elevator buttons. He's learning to even do it on like a refrigerator and handicap buttons. Anything that's a button, he's learning to push it. So if you can see this is an elevator button. I hit my mic. This is an elevator button. And Ace is going to push it and pretend like the elevator door opens. Ace, push. That was aggressive, sir. Push it again. Thank you. You can't hear the click, but there's a click when he pushes it, and he did it successfully. So, leave it. Thank you. So that was just kind of a visual example, and he's going to get to do a lot more later on in the presentation, so look out for that. But let's talk about George Bush and Sully. So President Bush, if you didn't know, was a veteran, and Sully was his veteran assistant dog. So veteran assistance dogs are really similar to PTSD dogs, and that they are trained to help veterans who typically have PTSD, and they help them do things like deep pressure therapy if they're feeling overwhelmed or they're starting to have PTSD symptoms, and they also help with retrieving items. George Bush and Sully specifically, Sully worked a lot on retrieving items like you just saw Ace do, pushing buttons to hit handicap door buttons, elevators, and all that kind of things. And then he did a little bit deep pressure therapy, but not as much as some of the other items. AGS doesn't work with veteran assistance dogs at the moment. We are starting to branch into that right now, and so we're hoping to begin to do that here in the future so we can train a lot of dogs that are like Sully. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about what service dogs are not, now that we've talked a little bit about what they are. So if you remember, service dogs are specifically trained to help someone with a task, right? Now, emotional support animals and therapy dogs, they are not service dogs. They may look like service dogs, but they're not. The difference is service dogs are, under the Americans with Disabilities Act, are given the public access rights to anywhere the public is allowed to go. And that's just a really fancy way of saying Ace, as a working service dog, can go anywhere you can go, which is kind of awesome, right? Which means Ace can go to the grocery store, he can go to the movie theater, he comes to classes with me when I have to go to class, he can come to wonderful things like this, but emotional support animals are not allowed to do that. Oh, you're gonna lay down? Okay, thank you. They are only given privileges to live with their person that they're with because they're not specifically trained to work a specific task. Emotional support animals and therapy animals, they're trained to give comfort to a person or a group of people based on their presence, which ADA doesn't define as a task. Are you better? Thank you. So, anyways, but a really fun thing about service dogs in training like Ace is in Texas and several other states, I think there's only 2 or 3 that don't have this policy now, but those that have this rule have a law that says service dogs in training are given the same public access rights as full working service dogs, which means Ace, even though he's really not a full working service dog right now because he's still in school, he can go anywhere that Sully, President Bush's dog, could go. This is really great, and my organization loves this rule so much because it means that while Ace is still learning to be a service dog, we can go out in public and we can go to the grocery store and he can learn how to be a service dog and how to act in the grocery store so that whenever he goes with his partner in the future, it's not brand new. Because think about it, if you were a dog and you went to the grocery store for the first time, it'd be really exciting, right? You'd have all this food everywhere and you're like, I'm gonna eat all of it. But Ace has to learn how to not do that and stay focused and do his job as a service dog. So, here's some really good advice on what to not do with your pets back home. Because it sounds pretty awesome to have a service dog, right? But you can't pretend that your dog is a service dog. Because, number one, that's against the law. And I don't want any of you to get in trouble for doing that. And number two is because if you take your pet that's home, back home, and you take them to the grocery store with you because you're like, oh, well, but anyways, if you take your pet to the grocery store with you and then your pet doesn't know how to act in the grocery store because they're a pet, and then they try to take a package of hamburger meat out of the meat section of the grocery store, then all the people in the grocery store and the store managers are going to think that you have a dog in the grocery store, so it must be a service dog, and that's how all service dogs act. But then if Ace and I went to the grocery store, they would think because of what your dog did that Ace was going to do that too, and then they wouldn't let us in. And that's not very fair to the people that need the service dogs to go to the grocery store. So the best rule of thumb is leave your dog at home. The last thing is it also misrepresents yourself as having a disability. If you go around with a service dog and you don't have a disability, everyone's going to think that you do. And that doesn't really, everyone's going to think that you have a disability, which isn't a bad thing if you have one, but if you don't have one, that's kind of like lying. My organization, Aggie Guide Dogs and Service Dogs, we work with puppies specifically who are 8 weeks old, and they are very generously donated to my organization from breeders all across the state of Texas, California, and Colorado. We're very fortunate that these breeders are willing to give us their dogs and put them through this whole process to be service dogs, even though sometimes they don't make it. When they're brought into our organization at about 8 weeks old, and they're about this big, like a loaf of bread, they are given to a student trainer. So everyone in my organization is currently a student at A&M. Thank you. We're all students, so we do everything that we do on volunteer work. We don't get paid for this. We don't get any kind of reward other than we helped raise a service dog. And we train them on hundreds of different tasks. Think of it kind of like elementary school for service dogs. They learn, Ace, heel. They learn potty training. They learn how to sleep in a kennel. They learn basic obedience commands like how to sit, how to lay down, to stay. That's very good. They even learn how to stand up when you tell them to stand, which is one of my favorite things to teach dogs. It's super fun. But then after they learn all of their basic stuff, so elementary school, then we move them into a high school kind of thing, where they start learning more advanced commands, as we call it, that'll help them with their partner. So they start learning tasks, such as leash, thank you, sit, sit. They learn how to hold objects in their mouth. Take it. Good. That's very good, boy. That is so good. And then hand it to you. Give. Good. Thank you. That's very good. Is it going to work now? Okay, we're going to come back to that. We're going to come back to that slide. But anyways, so after they're done learning all of these basic commands and the advanced commands, when they're about a year old, they graduate from our program, and they go on to, we have a little graduation ceremony too. They get like a diploma, and they wear a little graduation cap. It's really cute. But they go on to what we call Phase 2, or better known as Service Dog College. And they learn a little bit more advanced commands than what we teach them, and they get to meet their partner. Ace! Leave it. You know you're not allowed to smell the floor. I don't know why you keep trying. So then they get paired with their partner, and then after they're paired with their partner, they go on and they work as a full-time working service dog. So here's some wonderful advice that I'm going to give you about how to teach your brothers and sisters, your friends, your parents, whoever you meet about service dogs. The first thing to remember is don't talk to, don't touch, don't make noises at, don't even really acknowledge the service dog when you see them. Think of them kind of like a wheelchair. Okay, stick with me here for a second. I know this sounds weird. No. I know you want to do the command and give me the leash, but I'm already holding the leash, so I don't need you to give it to me. I appreciate the effort. That's his favorite command, is picking up the leash, so he tries to do it all the time. Heel. But anyways, think of him like a wheelchair, okay? If you see someone in a wheelchair, would you try to pet the wheelchair or be like, you're such a good wheelchair, good? Like, you wouldn't do that to a wheelchair, so don't do it to a service dog. If you're starting to talk to the service dog or you try to pet them, then you're distracting them from doing their job. You know when you're sitting in class and you're trying to do your work and someone's talking to you in your ear and you can't focus on what you're doing, right? It's the same kind of thing for a service dog. If you start talking to them or trying to pet them, then they can't focus on what they're doing. And that can be really harmful for their partner, especially if their partner needs them to alert to something medical. Then if the dog is distracted, they may miss it, and then that could be really bad for their partner. So if you're with your friends or you're with your mom or you're with whoever, and they're like, oh, look, it's a service dog, remind them we can't talk to them because they'll be distracted. Thank you, Ace. Oh, I just remembered a thing. One last thing on the side. But we will tell you that if you do see someone with a service dog and you're like, I have to pet this dog because it's the most fluffy dog in the world and I will die if I don't pet it, then you're more than welcome to go ask the person with the leash if you can pet the dog. I tell people all the time, as long as you ask me, I'll let you pet Ace. He loves pets. But you have to ask me first. You can't just pet him anyway, because that's kind of weird. Okay, this is still, I don't know what's up with this. We'll come back to that later. But anyways, so, moving on. Another important thing to remember about service dogs is they have to do a job. You know, them wearing their jackets is pretty much like them being on the clock at work. Now, they do have a job to do, but as y'all have noticed today, sometimes Ace gets bored with his job and he wants to be a regular pet and do whatever he wants. It's important to remember with service dogs, while they are very highly trained dogs, even when they're still in school, they are still dogs. And like Ace, sometimes they mess up. Sometimes they try to play tug with you when you're trying to make them do other things. Sometimes they want to wrestle, like Ace was just trying to right now, because they're dogs, and sometimes they make mistakes. But even when they make mistakes, you have to try to correct their mistakes. You sit? Yes, very good. But because they are working dogs and they do a lot and they work really hard, it doesn't mean they don't have fun. They have fun all the time. One of our favorite things to do with the dogs is there's a water park called Hawaiian Falls. I don't know how many of you have ever heard of it. But they do, I don't know what just happened. They do a thing about every 2 to 3 months where they have a time in the morning. It's usually between like 10 and 11 in the morning, where they let service dogs and service dogs in training go into the water park with their partner and have like a dog fun day. And so we do this with our dogs all the time. Part of the reason that we can do this is because service dogs are trained that when they're wearing their jacket, they're working. Kind of like their backpack, if that kind of makes sense. So when he's wearing his jacket, he knows that he's supposed to be working, even if he doesn't want to. But if I took his jacket off of him right now, then he would want to go run all the way out to where all of you are sitting and play with all of you and play fetch. His favorite thing to do is play fetch, so he would 100% try to play fetch with all of you. But it's one of the things that they have to learn. They have to be able to distinguish between work time and play time so that they know when they're working, I'm working and I have to focus on my partner or who's ever holding their leash. They also know that even when they're playing, sometimes they still have to work. So even if Ace isn't wearing his jacket, he still knows that if I need him to alert to me having a seizure, for example, or Sully knew with President Bush that if he ever had to alert to President Bush needing deep pressure therapy or getting President Bush something, that he would have to be able to stop whatever he was doing, playing or eating food or whatever, and be able to go do that for Bush, which I think is really kind of awesome. Do y'all want to watch my favorite thing to have Ace do, like ever? Okay. I figured you would. So, what we're going to do is we're actually going to do two things. So the first thing that we're going to do is called a recall. And because, really, Ace loves people so much, okay? So, I'm going to need y'all's help with this one, okay? Ace may try to come say hello to all of you when he's not supposed to, okay? So if he does, ignore him. Just like close your eyes and pretend you can't see him, okay? But what we're going to do is we're going to call a recall. So I'm going to put Ace on one side of the stage, and I'm going to go to the other, and he's going to come to me when I tell him to. I might also make him do some stuff in the middle. We'll see how I feel. You ready? Let's go. This command, this recall command, is really important because, as you probably noticed, in the museum, there is a security portion of the museum that you have to go through to enter. Or like if you're in the airport, you have to go through security. And, well, you can't take the dog with you while you go through security, so you have to put them in a down and then tell them to stay on one side of it as you go through. And then when you're done, they have to go through it. So you tell them to come to you. Ace, come. Yes, very good. That was good, boy. That was very good. Yes, you want to do it again? Yeah? You stay. And we work on this with the dogs all the time, so that whenever they're with their partner and they have to go do things like this, they have to go through security or they're in a really crowded grocery store and they can't take the dog with them at the time and they have to put him down in one area and then tell him to come to him later. No. The dog they're comfortable with it. So we work on those a lot. The other thing that we love to work on is what we call a distance retrieval. So this is the kind of thing that Sully would have done for President Bush all the time. Oh, hey. So what's going to happen for this is I'm going to take this, and I'm going to throw it over there. He's going to, hopefully, get it and bring it back to me. This is one of Ace's newest commands that he's learning, so it might take him a while to do it. We'll see how it goes. So this is kind of thing, so if you're like President Bush and you're in a wheelchair and you can move around, but there's some stuff that you may need help getting, or if you're diabetic, or you have any kind of medical issues and you need someone to come bring you medicine if you need it, the dog is trained to be able to go get this stuff and bring it to you. So let's pretend this is like a bottle of medicine, for example. Get it. Give. Thank you. That's very good. I was really impressed with that, Ace. I'm not going to lie. Okay. We're going to see if this is going to go. Oh, hey. So these are some of our student trainers and our past dogs that we've had in the organization. In this top right corner is a young lady named Melanie who trained Tommy. Tommy now works as a mobility assistance dog. The thing that he's specifically trained to do is his partner, she has cerebral palsy, which is a disease where she has a hard time moving around a lot and she falls down. And so Tommy is trained that whenever she falls down, he'll come over and push his body, stay. I use my arms for example. He doesn't know this yet, or I would show you with him. So if she falls down like this, Tommy will come over and push his body under hers to help push her up, and then so she can put her arm on his back and use his body weight to pull herself up off the ground. My head's in the way. This is Haley and Kirby. Kirby right now is still in the process of being placed, but we're hoping he ends up working in a PTSD or veteran assistance task command. And then in this corner over here is Sunny, and Sunny works, Sunny didn't get placed as a service dog, but he works at a courthouse in New Mexico. He helps children or people who have to testify in court. He gets to go up on the stand with them, and he brings them comfort if they're nervous for testifying, or if they just need, like, if they just want to pet a dog while they're having to be in court. Sunny goes with them and just makes them feel better about it. We've talked a lot about service dogs, and we've talked a lot about what service dogs are not, and we've talked about President Bush and his dog Sully and a little bit about what they did, and we've talked about AGS specifically. Now is the time where I get to ask all of you if you have any questions for me about service dogs or policies or Sully or anything like that.
My name is Jillian Dixon. I am from Ms. Sue Anderson's 6th grade reading class at Brindle Middle School. And my question is, since Sully is no longer with the president, does he still wear the president's seal on his service vest?
You know, I don't 100% know the answer to that question. I'm pretty sure he does, because I know he is working in a hospital with veterans right now. But I don't know for 100% certain. Thank you for your question, though. Yes, in the back. No, there is not. There's no laws defining or regulating what breeds can and can't be service dogs. My organization specifically works with golden retrievers, golden doodles, labradoodles, poodles, and Labrador retrievers because we've determined that their personalities are best for working breeds. But we work with organizations who use pit bulls, Dobermans, German Shepherds. I know of a service Chihuahua, too. So, like, anything goes. Close your leg. That's gross. Yes, you with the microphone.
My name is Lane Borgstead, and I'm from Miss Stanford's classroom at Brandon Middle School. My question is, what is the most unusual breed you had for a service dog?
The most unusual breed we had, it's not really that unusual, but we had a Australian Shepherd as a service dog one time. The dog didn't do very well, but we had him in the organization. They ended up getting dropped from the program after they graduated from us. But that was pretty odd for us. I think the weirdest in general would be the service Chihuahua that I know. He's a good boy, but it's a little odd. Okay, yes.
How long it takes to be a service dog?
How long can the service dog work?
How long?
Bo wants to know, how long can the service dog work? How many years?
So service dogs, their process to become a full service dog usually takes about 2 years. And then from then on, they work for the duration that either the service dog lives or their partner has them. Service dogs are only paired to one partner throughout their whole life. So Sully, as a prime example, he worked with President Bush for as long as President Bush was alive, and now he isn't partnered as a service dog anymore. He's doing some other work right now. But for the most part, the dogs work for anywhere from 5 to 10 years, sometimes longer. But it kind of varies depending on the dog and the situation.
Okay, Michael. All right, Michael.
Why does service dog like this?
Why do they like working? We don't really know why the dogs like working so much. We just know that they like it. I think for them, they think it's fun because they get so many yummy treats all the time, and they get to hang out with wonderful people like all of you. Okay, you in the cheetah print jacket had a question.
Do you know what happens to the dogs that fail the program at the academy, like they don't pass?
Yeah, that's a great question. So dogs that don't pass the service dog training program, they either get sent back to their puppy raiser, so the people from my organization that raised them as a baby, or sometimes they get placed in an adoption program. So I know that there's a facility in San Antonio that takes retired or career-changed working dogs, and they adopt them out to wonderful, loving families for them to be wonderful, happy pets.
Thank you.
Okay, you in the blue shirt. Yeah. It depends on the organization and the dog. My organization is very beneficial that Purina, the dog food company, donates all of the food for our dogs for free. So our dogs eat Purina. But there are some other dogs that'll eat Iams or Beneful or whatever. There's so many dog breeds, so many foods out there. So it kind of depends again. Okay, you in the gray. The dogs fight? Oh, so Ace, as much as a wonderfully good service dog he is, sometimes he gets really bored when we're doing stuff like this because he just has to lay here this whole time, and he gets a little bored doing that. So he tries to entertain himself by playing games and trying to wrestle when he's not supposed to. So that's the only reason that he does that. Yes, you? Good boy.
Why do dogs do people?
Say that one more time.
Why do dogs do people?
Why do dogs go with people?
Oh, okay. So these dogs go with people because they help them do things that they normally can't do without the dogs. They're kind of like an assistant, kind of.
Malia, go sit down. All right, him.
Ooh, yes, you. How do we train the dogs? So that's a wonderful question. So you've probably seen me hold this up a lot. This is called a clicker, and you've probably heard it too. It makes the clicking noise. And this is a form of a really fancy word called positive reinforcement training. This is a really fancy way of saying that Ace knows every time I click the clicker, he's going to get a treat. And in his brain, that means he's doing something good. So we use the clicker to reward the dogs for them doing things. So every time Ace does something right, like if I ask him to sit, and he sits, he gets a treat. And that's part of our training process for them. The rest of it is really long and complicated, but that's the general idea. You in the front.
How do they stay?
How do they stay what?
How do they get your attention?
How do they get my attention? So the people who are trained to handle these dogs, we're trained to notice everything that the dog does. Have you ever heard your mom say that they have an eye in the back of their head? My mom used to say that all the time. That's pretty much what we learn with these dogs. Every time Ace moves while I'm standing on his leash or I'm holding his leash, I feel his leash move as he moves. So that gets his attention on him misbehaving. But if he's trying to alert to me having an impending seizure, or if he's autism assistant and he's having like an overload of something, I don't know, they will usually either put their paw on your leg and kind of like scratch at you, or some dogs are even trained to just like headbutt you, essentially, to get your attention.
They have dogs that save people from drowning.
What?
They have dogs that save people from drowning.
Oh, they do. So those are called search and rescue dogs. They're a little different than service dogs, but those exist. Okay, pause over there. You had a question right here. So Tommy, for example, the poodle who does that, he takes his nose, and if I was laying down right now, he would take his nose and push on your shoulder until he could crawl himself, and just keep pushing you until he could crawl himself under you, and then he would stand up, which if you were laying down and he stood, it would make you sit up. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes.
How long has she been a trainer?
So Ace is actually a boy, but Ace has been in training for 9 months now. He will finish out his training with our program in May and go on to meet his partner. You had a question. Yeah, so for seizures specifically, the dogs are trained to notice different symptoms that mean a seizure is impending. And that's kind of, they're just learn how to recognize those signs. For diabetic, for example, when a dog is in diabetic training, they get samples of the partner's blood for when they're at a low blood sugar, high blood sugar, and then normal. And so the dog, we don't know what they smell in the blood, but they're just trained to smell it and then alert to it.
They get messy.
Oh, yes. Yes. Here you go.
How your dog go to school with you?
Yeah, so part of the way that they go to school with us is they wear the jacket like what Ace is wearing that signifies him as a service dog. And then Ace, we wait in my program until they're about 6 months old, because at that point they've learned enough in their training that we're confident they can behave in class like they're supposed to. And most of the dogs use class as a time to take a nap. So they lay down like Aces and they mostly just go to sleep. You. Get hurt? Not typically. We've had a couple dogs that have got hurt because they were playing too intensely, and they got hurt, but it doesn't happen that often. You with the scarf. So that's a good question. And the Americans with Disabilities Act doesn't require that there's any identification. They're not even required a service dog to even wear a vest. But most people, to signify that it is a service dog, have them wear a vest, like what Ace is wearing. But there's no legal saying you have to. So usually if you see a dog wearing a vest, it means it's a service dog. Can you not? Okay, you. Yeah. Wait, can you say it again? When I'm feeding him pieces of dog kibble. So the dogs in my program, we don't give them normal meals like dogs do. You know how you'll feed them like meals in a bowl? We don't let our dogs have those because they do so much work. Really? I know, come on, kiddo. Because they work for so long every day, we have all of the food that Ace will eat in this little pouch that I'm wearing, and he gets those pieces of kibble as a reward. And sometimes I'll give him real treats like this one, but those are like a special reward, like if you got ice cream before dinner. Okay, yes? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure when they're doing that, they could, but most of the dogs are trained on how to properly save people, so they usually don't get hurt. Okay, you that are sitting next to her. He eats Purina, so it's one of the Purina formulas that he eats. But, I mean, it all kind of varies depending on the organization. We just feed him Purina dog food. Okay, the boy in the blue shirt. 8 weeks old. So they're little babies. Okay, you in the blue. Mm-hmm. So Ace rubs his head on the floor as a signifier to me that he is feeling a little stressed. Just like you get stressed out, dogs get stressed out too. And one of Ace's signs of him getting stressed is he'll rub his head on the ground. And so Ace, has never met this many people as he's meeting right now before, and so it's a little stressful for him. So he's just trying to tell me that he's feeling stressed. That's all it is. Okay, you right here in the front. She can go to the mic. Good boy.
Why the puppy pee and poop?
That's a wonderful question. I don't know why. That's just how they're made. You in the back. Yeah. Ace is 9 months old. So in human years, he's like a teenager. So my organization works a little differently than most service dog training organizations. Most organizations require a year of training and handling practice. My organization is different, and we let you do it at your own pace because you're a student. So we just require, as long as we feel comfortable with your capabilities in training and knowing the material in our training manual, then we'll deem if you're ready to get a dog from us or not. Usually, it kind of depends. I did the training process in about 2 months, and then one of our other trainers did it in 2 years. So it kind of just all depends on your schedule for us. Yes, ma'am. It depends on the organization. So there are some organizations that we work with, the secondaries that actually place the dogs with partners, that require the partner raises half of the fees for the dog's whole life. And that half that they raise, the organization covers the other half, which goes towards food and vet bills and all the other myriad of stuff that comes with having a dog. There are other organizations that are 501c3 government organizations that use grants from the government to give the dogs for free. Most of these veteran organizations, one that we work with is California Service Dogs, and they do everything for the dogs for free. There's no cost to the veteran at all. Ace, lay down. Yes, ma'am.
Does Ace know?
She wants to know if Ace knows where he's going or who his partner is going to be at the end.
We don't know for 100% certain where Ace is going yet. He's in our program till about May. He's doing interviews right now with 2 organizations, one Freedom Service Dogs in Colorado, and the other one is the Service Dog Academy in California. So whichever one likes him best is the one he'll go to. And service dogs, we as humans don't tell the service dogs what they're going to do with their life. They go through a thing called matching camp where they meet let's say 20 different people who need service dogs, and the dog gets to pick who they are best suited with and then picks their career. So Ace will go through this process, and he'll get to pick his own job after he meets the person that he connects with best. Yes, ma'am. Kind of. I'm a recreation, park, and tourism sciences major with a focus in hospitality, tourism, and event services, which I know has probably nothing to do with this at all. But ultimately, I want to work with nonprofits and specifically CASA houses. And so it kind of relates to this, but kind of not. Most of the people in our organization want to be vets. So I couldn't be a vet. I'm too emotional for that. Yes, sir. What do they do? A lot of different things. It kind of depends on who they're working for with what they do. Yes, ma'am? Wait, can you say it again? I couldn't hear you. You're going to say it real loud. What do they do to help people? It depends on who they're helping, but think of them kind of like a assistant. They help someone with pretty much whatever they need help with. Mostly like getting things for them or telling them if they're gonna have to go to the hospital or something like that. Yes? You right there? Yeah. Speak up. Why does he bite his tail? Probably just because it itches. It's like if you scratch your head, if it itches, he doesn't have fingers to scratch with, so he has to use his teeth. Yes, ma'am.
Who would we contact to talk about maybe having a service dog, particularly one that works with autism people? Who would we contact to talk to about that? We're having a autism walk soon next month at our school.
Absolutely. So you could contact anyone from my organization. I'll put up our contact stuff here in a second. But if you want someone that actively places autism assistance dogs,
I would love to have an autistic dog in training to
yeah.
come over and visit our school during our Autism Awareness Week.
Yeah, absolutely. So the one that we work with directly that does a lot of that is called Scouts Legacy.
Scouts Legacy.
Yes, ma'am. They are located up in Dallas.
And you'll have the information, the contact
Yes, ma'am.
information?
Yes, ma'am. I'll be able to get that to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Anybody else? Up in the back? How many dogs have helped people, like in the whole world? I don't know how many in the whole world. In my organization, we've had 79 go on to help people. All right. Okay, I'll take 2 more questions, and then I think we have to be done. Okay, I'll take you in the front. Stop. You gonna ask your question? Why does he itch? I don't know. It's kind of probably why you get itchy. You know, like if you have something that, like if you like walk in grass, then sometimes your feet are itchy. It's probably just the same kind of thing. Okay, you in the cheetah print jacket in the back, last one.
I know that they do this with some dogs. Like they come to your house and do an inspection to make sure that like your home is okay for the dog. Do they do that with the service dogs?
A lot of organizations do, just because they want to make sure that there's a place for the dog to go outside to go potty, or like a backyard or something like that. My organization does it for anyone that wants to be a puppy raiser for us, because we want to make sure that wherever you're living, it's puppy proof essentially, and there's not any like wires or anything that the puppy could chew up and make them sick.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Ace is a boy. Yes. Okay, you right here in the red jacket in the front. How do they know when to work? So our dogs learn a command called dress. And basically what that means is when we hold the jacket out to them, we tell them to put it on. And then when we put it on, it's kind of like you putting on your backpack when you go to school, right? So they're like, okay, I am wearing this and I am working now. And that's kind of how they learn it over time. You in the black shirt right here in the middle. Yeah, you. Most service dogs, and especially guide dogs, are microchipped. So it means they have a little thing in their like body that is a GPS tracker. You know how you have a GPS like on your mom's phone, so you can she can know where she's going. So the dogs have the same kind of thing. So if the dog gets lost, and even if you're blind, you can use a GPS, or they can have someone who they live with use the GPS to find the dog, so they can get him back. Okay, you over here, blonde. Yes. Do they ever growl at people? Yes, we don't encourage it. You've probably heard Ace growl a couple times up here because he's mad at Sarah because he wants to play. So we try to teach the dogs that it's not okay to growl, but they are dogs, so they still will sometimes. Okay, you right here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we use different, they're called hand signs, so we do different things with our hands to teach the dog different commands, like pointing down is laying down, and then we'll point upwards and they sit, so that the dogs, especially if they go work with someone who can't hear anything, they usually don't talk either, that the dog can still know what they're supposed to be doing. Or if it's like we're in a really loud room, you know, and it's kind of hard to hear, the dog still knows what he's supposed to do. Okay. Oh, in the pink sweater in the back.
What other animals can be service animals besides dogs?
I've never heard of any animals other than dogs being service dogs. So I don't know, but I imagine that there are. Okay, let's go back over here to you on the end, the boy on the end. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can use the mic if you want. How do they become service dogs? So they go through programs kind of like mine that teach them to be service dogs. And so that's kind of how they do it. They go through a lot of training, like a lot of school. Okay, in the middle. Let's go to the back, black jacket.
Service dogs ever retire?
They ever retire? Yes. When the dog is either whenever the partner passes away, because service dogs are only paired with one partner for the duration of their partner and their life, they will get retired. One of our dogs recently got retired because his partner passed away. So he got sent back to his puppy trainer. But if the partner doesn't retire when the dog is deemed too old to work, usually when they're about 10 years of age or older, they're deemed too old. And so they're retired, and they remain with their partner just as a pet, or they're sent to be adopted, or they're sent back to their puppy raiser, but they just become a pet after that. Over here, let's go you. Yeah. How old do they have to be? Well, they start training when they're like an infant puppy, like 8 weeks old, and then they're in training until they're about 2 years old, which in human years is like if they were like 20 years old in human years and like a kind of an adult. Okay, you in the front. How many years can they live? They typically live between 10 and 15 years of life. Okay, you in the glasses. Does Ace like treats? Ace loves treats. Right now, he's not eating treats, he's eating dog kibble. Our dogs, we don't give them real treats that often because they're just so yummy. We save them for special moments. It's like when you get a piece of candy, you know? It's like amazing, and so you only get it when you're like extra, extra good. So our dogs eat kibble all the time, which is like our version of like normal food. Okay, you in the purple shirt.
In George Bush stuff, was it a girl or a boy?
Sally was a boy. Yes. Okay, you in the purple shirt. Yeah. How do the dogs talk to people if someone has a seizure? What they do, because you know dogs can't talk, right? So what they do is they will either get a hold, you know, like if you're wearing like a shirt, the dog will come up and they'll either bite on the shirt and like pull it so you would like have to follow them, or they'll go up to you and they'll essentially jump on you and just keep jumping on you until you fall and like jump on you and then walk away. And then they'll come back and they'll jump on you and then they'll walk away again until you are like, okay, I need to follow this dog, and then you follow the dog off. So dogs have to communicate without using words. Drama boy. Okay, in the back. How do I become a trainer? So every organization does it a little different. My organization, we do an at-your-own-pace process. So you go through a series of interviews. We have a training handbook that's like basically a textbook to teach you how to train all the commands. And then you go through different hours of handling experience with the dogs, so that we feel you're confident enough for us to give you an 8-week-old puppy and you raise it to be a service dog. Right here. How many girl service dogs? We have had 5 girl service dogs throughout our whole time. We currently don't have any girl service dogs in our organization right now, but I hope we will get one soon, because I like them. In the back. Do they ever sleep? Yeah, whenever and wherever they want. The dogs are trained to, whenever they're not very excited like Ace is right now. Like they're in classes with us, then they lay down and they usually take a nap. That's their favorite place to nap all the time. They sleep in the car a lot. Ace is supposed to be sleeping right now, and as you can see, he's doing a great job of that. Okay, you two in the middle. Yeah, one of you. Has he ever attacked? Not with the intention of hurting somebody. Sometimes when you're playing with Ace, he wants to like wrestle with you. You know how like some dogs will like playfully be like, let's wrestle. You know, like you probably do with like your brother or something. Ace does the same thing. So he doesn't ever try to like attack anyone to hurt someone, but he'll try to like jump on you to be like, play with me. In the back. How do they get a service dog? So people, to get a service dog, you have 2 options. You can either own or train. There are several organizations across the nation that will help assisting you in owner training. So you adopt the dog and then they teach you how to train it for whatever you need. And then the secondary organizations we work with, their whole job is placing people with service dogs. So that's what we usually do. Okay, you right here in the front. Do they wake us up? They do sometimes, especially when they're babies. You know, like when you're like with babies, how they like wake up and they like cry? Our puppies do the same thing when they're babies and they're learning how to like sleep completely through the night like you probably do. And so, but sometimes when you have to wake up in the morning and the dog is in their kennel and they have to go potty, they'll start barking to be like, hey, I need to go to the bathroom, let me out, which is always fun. Okay, in the very back. So our organization has a couple different factors that we take into account. The first is we require dogs to pass their Canine Good Citizen Test, or CGC. And this is basically a fancy test that says Ace is a certified good boy and he's not gonna like maul somebody on the streets. And then after that, he will do a series of interviews with secondary organizations to deem if he fits with their program and the kind of individuals with disabilities that they work with. And then from there, he'll do a graduation ceremony with us, and then after that, he'll be sent on to them. So it's a couple different steps. The only reason he wouldn't make it that far is if for some reason he like did something completely ridiculous, like bite someone so bad they had to get stitches, and then, which has never happened. But if it did, he would not make it. He would get to go be a pet somewhere. Okay, you in the gray shirt. Yeah, you. How they feed them food. So when you're blind, you can't really see anything, but a lot of people that are blind have a general understanding of what's around them, and a lot of them live with somebody who can see. So a lot of them have a lot of help. I know a lady that she isn't totally blind, but she's like partially blind, and she uses Alexa. She has like a food feeder that's connected to her Alexa that feeds her dog, which I think is super awesome. Like, I want one really bad. Okay, yes, ma'am, with the purple sleeve. Yeah. It's you. How do they know when to walk? So Sarah is going to demonstrate in a second. One of the commands we teach our dogs is called let's go. And that whole command is just telling the dog, hey, we're walking now, so that they know to get up and start walking. So Sarah's going to demonstrate. Let's go.
Good boy. That's so good. So good.
Yes, ma'am. When they get full, like, of food? Okay, so our dogs that we typically work with are food-motivated dogs, so they love eating. And we don't give our dogs meals. They have to work for all of their food. So all of the food Ace will eat this entire day is in his pouch. And he gets pieces for doing good things all the time. So he gets like one piece of kibble for every good thing that he does throughout the day. And so they typically don't get full, but usually by the end of the day, because they've eaten so much kibble, they're full. Okay. Yes.
So how do you teach a dog to alert to something we can't sense, like a seizure or anxiety attack?
So that's actually really interesting. I learned about it the other day. So the dogs, every people, we all have like little ticks and tremors that basically signify what we're about to do, and especially if you have autism or you have PTSD or even a seizure, there's symptoms, nonverbal bodily symptoms that you'll show before that happens, and the dog, partially through training and partially just being around you, picks up on what those are. And so they'll start to alert to it. The dog that I trained, he's an autism assistance dog. And so he's learned through being with his partner to pick up on her breathing to know when she's about to have a panic attack. And so he knows from that to be like, oh. Good. Yes. They go through a year-long, after they meet their partner, they go through a year-long training with their partner before they're officially graduated and deemed a service dog, so they can learn. Okay, yes, ma'am, in the back. Yeah, so that's actually happened a couple times. So the thing that we usually do is all of our trainers, Sarah has it in her pouch right now, but all of our trainers have little cards that have the Texas state law and ADA laws regarding service dogs and their public access rights. So we usually tell our trainers and anyone handling the dogs, if someone's like, you can't be in here, whatever, they usually bring out the laws, and all of our trainers know under ADA policies, business owners are only allowed to ask 2 questions to a person with a service dog. They're allowed to ask, is this a service dog specifically task trained to help you with a disability? And then they can ask, what task are they trained to perform for your disability? They're not legally allowed to ask you any other questions. And so typically when it happens to one of our trainers, because they are service dogs in training, and we're not training them for one specific career, we're training them for everything at the time that they're with us, We'll show them the law. We'll try to explain, like, this is a service dog in training. This is what the law says. We have the legal right to be here. And if they continue to be like, you can't be here, and just be really aggressive about it, at that point, our trainers get the name of the manager, the store, the phone number, and our faculty advisor will send a letter to the manager and the store that explains the situation that happened and the whole thing after that. And try to educate the store manager to educate their employees or people or whoever to be like, this is how this is supposed to go. You're welcome, you're welcome. Okay, let's get one of these in the front row. Okay, you've had your hand up for a while. No, behind you. Sorry, love. Yeah. What do dogs eat? They eat dog food mostly. Our dogs, we're very lucky that the dog food brand Purina donates all of the food for all of our dogs, which is a lot of food. So our dogs eat Purina food, but a lot of different dogs eat a lot of different stuff. Okay, let's go back over here. In the back, black sweatshirt. Yes. Yeah, you. How do they train? So you've probably heard the clicker noise, the clicking noise that Sarah's been doing this whole time. That's called a clicker. And a clicker is part of a positive reinforcement training. So basically, that's a really fancy way of saying every time Ace does something good, he gets a click and a treat. And he knows every time he hears the click that he's being a good boy and he gets a treat. And so he learns over time with the different treats that we give him, and we teach all the different commands we give him. Every time he hears the click, he's doing a really good job. And so that helps him in his training to be a service dog, and now he wants to hear the click. He wants to get the treat, so he'll do anything we ask him to get the click. Okay, you in the green shirt in the front. Yeah. Yeah. How do they pull them if the dog's sick? So it is really sad that sometimes dogs do get sick. You know, they get like the doggy version of the flu and they're like throwing up. It is really sad. The dog will have to go to the vet, and typically the partner won't make the dog work that day, and they'll have like their friend or their mom come over and help them with the stuff that they need since the dog is sick, and they don't want to make them work when they're sick because that's just not fun. Okay, I can do probably 5-ish more questions. Let's go up to you in the back. Yeah. Right now, we have 5 dogs in training right now. We usually have about 10. We're a little low in numbers right now, but we try not to go over 10 because our entire program is students, and we don't want our training supervisors, who are also students, and our trainers to feel very overwhelmed with too many dogs. Okay, let's go back over here. Okay, yes, you've had your hand up for a really long time. No, you. Yeah.
Ace, come.
What?
Good boy. Let's go.
When they're little, how old are they? In dog years, they are about 8 weeks old. In people years, that's like a newborn infant. They're like a little baby. They're like brand newborn. Okay. Okay, you in the black. No, you, the glasses. They go with them. So if you're a trainer with our organization, the dog lives with you. They go everywhere with you that you go. So if, we had one of our trainers a couple years ago that she was from Delaware. And so she went to school here, but every time she had to go home, her dog went with her to Delaware. And so They do that a lot. But if for any reason you can't take the dog with you, we have what we call sitters, which are basically part-time trainers, which means they don't have a dog that they raise for us. But if for some reason you have to go home to Delaware and you can't take your dog, or you have to go to the doctor and you don't want to take your dog with you, you give your dog off to the sitter, and the sitter takes care of them for you. Okay, let's do one more over here. Okay, yes. How tall is Ace? I mean, do you want him in like inches, or do you just want him to like stand up? I don't know how tall he is in inches, but he comes up to about like the middle of my thigh, so like, I don't know. If you find a ruler, we can measure him, so I'm okay with that. Okay, let's do 3 more, and then I think we have to be done. I haven't picked anyone from over here yet. I know. Okay, you in the, is that a cupcake on your shirt? Because if it is, it's amazing. Oh, it's ice cream. I love that. Okay, what's your question? How old is Ace? Ace is 9 months old. So in people years, he's kind of like a teenager right now. He's like 15 or 16 years old, and that's why he's kind of being a little bit of a bad dog up here right now, because he's a teenager and he wants to do what he wants, and he doesn't want to listen to his mom. So teenagers in the room, or parents in the room, y'all know what I mean. Okay. Yes, what's your question? Yeah.
Go ahead.
If he stands up, how tall is Ace?
Good.
That tall. I don't know what it is in inches, but he's that tall, if that helps. Okay, yes, you right here. Wait, no, the one behind you. I'm so sorry, sweetie. We don't let people foster, just because of the kind of training and the process you have to go through for us to be able to handle the dogs. But there are several, no, there are several organizations who do things like that, but my organization specifically, we don't. Okay, let's do one over here. Okay, yes, you in the blue shirt. You look like you're about to explode. And there's no one around to help you either? I don't know, bud. I don't know. I mean, so like if you had a service dog and you were about to pass out, then the dog would, they'd help try to catch you. So if you were about to fall over, they'd go stand either behind you or next to you so that you fall on them and you don't like hurt your head when you fall on the ground. But if you were totally alone, I don't know what would happen. Okay, in the back. Yeah. Typically, no. Technically, you can count the head collar that Ace is wearing, but we typically only clicker positive reinforcement train. We've found that it is best for working dogs to make sure that they're happy and they love working and everything that they do. Good. Okay, you right here in the plaid shirt in the front. Yeah.
Oh, you scared him.
I know. Right now, Ace is angry and he's really mad because he wants to play with all of you guys. I know, and he's kind of hungry too. Yeah, you're right. Okay, yes, you. Their punishment? So because we positive reinforcement train, we don't really use any punishment. But if you might have heard Sarah earlier, she'll tell Ace no, or she'll say We try to use verbals and as a correction. So when Ace has his little trauma drama freakouts as he was having earlier, you probably noticed that Sarah would walk off and she'd walk around. She'll use kibble to try to refocus him back on her, and she'll make him run through his basic commands, so sit, down, stand, to try to help him focus and then go back to whatever they were doing so that he can succeed. We don't really condone any violence at all towards them. So we try to stay as nice as possible. Do nothing more harmful than yell at them. Okay, you right here in the gray. Yeah, yeah. How far can a dog jump? I have no idea. I really don't. How big do they grow? Well, Ace is pretty much done growing. So he's 55 pounds, and he's pretty much done growing with what he is. The dog that I trained, he was about this tall. He came up to like right here on my hip, and he was 72 pounds. So it depends on the dog how big they get. Okay, last question. Oh, everyone has so many questions for the last question. Okay, okay, we'll go back to you here in the back because you've had your hand up for a really long time. You're good, you're good, you're good. Yes and no. So because of ADA policies, you pretty much have to have a disability to get a service dog, but as long as you have a disability and you go through the proper steps through several different organizations and all of the steps that the organization that gives you the service dog has, you can get one. But the number one rule there is you have to have a disability to have a service dog. It's kind of how it works. So that's all the time we have for questions. I thank you so much for allowing Sarah and I to be here today. Can we give Sarah and Ace another round of applause?
Applause for Abigail, Sarah, and Ace. Thank you. Thank you. You have been a wonderful audience. We're so grateful that you came today, and I hope you learned a lot about service dogs. In fact, I know you did. And to our distance learners, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate that you came as well. And we're all going to say goodbye to you now. Goodbye to distance learning. Bye.
Bye.